here on Netflix, and it is glorious. That's pretty much most of what I have to say today, but I'm gonna go on at more length anyway. My name is Amy Dallen. Thank you for watching this. We haven't had an update in a little while, and normally I talk about comic books, but today we are making an exception for comic book related media because Netflix's Daredevil debuted this weekend, and it's absolutely wonderful. The Netflix Daredevil series, all 13 episodes of which went up this weekend in accordance with the Netflix binge watch model, is important for a number of reasons. The most important to me is that it was the planned beginning of a slate of 4 shows and a miniseries featuring some of my favorite characters in the entire Marvel Universe. It was a huge experiment, and it was a lot to commit to without any idea of how any of these individual series were going to turn out. And it was already slightly scary because it had been through multiple showrunners in its development period. But as it turns out, both of those, Drew Goddard and Stephen DeKnight, are credited on the final work. They've worked together in the past. They're both Buffy alums and really talented folks. The other writers, like Christos Gage and his wife Ruth, who are veteran TV writers, and Christos is known to us for wonderful comic book work. Basically, they got a great talent pool. They got an absolutely phenomenal ensemble cast for Daredevil. And I'm just delighted. I'm just delighted with what we got. I could have used more actual devil, call the Kingpin, but we will get there. And even though it was cautious with the rollout of the superhero tropes, it didn't feel ashamed of its source material, which is a thing that's really important to all of us who watch superhero media. So basically, so many thumbs up. I'm so happy with what we got, and it makes me so excited for the series that we're going to get in the future. The biggest downside of the whole thing is that I can't immediately tune in for Daredevil Season 2, like, next week. Now, as always, this begins and ends with comic book work. Daredevil, as I've mentioned in the past, inspires fantastic work, not just in TV people, but in comic writers. There have been some absolutely wonderful runs on him. You can watch this video from my weekly series from the Geek Sundry main channel, highlighting some of my favorite picks for Daredevil, but I will once again plug the current run by Mark Waid, and of course the classic Frank Miller stuff for your Daredevil comic book fix. But this series is astonishingly true to the feeling of Daredevil, to Karen Page and Foggy Nelson and Matt Murdock and Ben Urich, and I'm going to try to stay spoiler light throughout this. So if I seem to make any faces, that's me stopping myself. Rosario Dawson is wonderful in the show. Charlie Cox is absolutely fantastic. I loved Karen Page, and Foggy took me an episode or 2 to come around on, but he's absolutely Foggy to me now. They've changed the character a little bit from how I know him in the comics, but I really like the new version of Foggy. The whole Mom wanted me to be a butcher, hardware store escapee kind of storyline very much fits them both as Hell's Kitchen boys. There is some hilarity if you happen to be watching this show with New Yorkers, since apparently Hell's Kitchen is a fairly small area, which is pretty nice these days, and not the enormous metropolis filled with horrifying crime that we meet in the show. But as a non-New Yorker, all the location shooting in New York made it feel very authentic. It's a show that's definitely grounded in that urban landscape. Daredevil is part of what's often known as Marvel's street-level heroes, along with, of course, the upcoming Power Man, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones. Power Man is Luke Cage. We'll get to know him soon. And this show, for my money, managed to make itself feel like part of the Marvel Universe while also being quite distinct from the tone of, let's say, Thor, to a really impressive extent. And actually, that's a challenge you get with any adaptation of Daredevil. He is a combination of weird elements. He's a guy who sort of fights purse snatchers, but also he's blind, and also he was trained in martial arts, and he's got a weird connection to that sort of Eastern mysticism side of things. And he's always fighting off hordes of ninjas, but his primary mythology is sort of about Catholicism, and also it's courtroom drama because he's a lawyer. And this show actually managed to use basically all of that without it feeling insane. And that is a heck of an achievement. Now, granted, I would have really loved to have the experience of watching this all week by week with an enormous internet audience so we could sort of see everyone's reaction to, let's say, a particular left turn in the episode called Stick, where we get quite a different vision of the world. I just said vision of the world when I'm talking about Daredevil and Stick, and they're both blind. Let's pretend that that made sense. But that's built into the Netflix model. This is actually the first of their shows that I've done, and it's an amazing rush to just get to plow through the whole thing. But it's a little bit sad not to have that one-at-a-time mass collective experience with the show. So I don't know. The trade-off is everybody's talking about it today, and that's absolutely fantastic. But we're gonna have to wait so long for any more Daredevil. They're lucky I'm so excited for every other series in this upcoming slate. One amazing thing about the Netflix model is that they don't necessarily have to have the same intensity of hook 'em for next week between episodes that you see on a week-to-week network television show, which means, I think, that might be why they can take more time with a lot of stuff. I've heard people say that the show felt slow. It didn't feel slow for me. It just felt like it got to take its time. We really got to meet these characters. We really got to invest in this ensemble. We really got to see this world around them. And I loved that. And we got to see some pretty delightful cameos, which I'm not going to spoil for those of you who haven't watched it yet. But some minor characters show up in various formats, which are a wonderful nod to the rich legacy of Daredevil. So those are my quick, more or less spoiler-free thoughts on the Daredevil show. I'm just so delighted. We were just hoping so earnestly that this would be good, that it would make people excited, that they would get what makes him such a cool character, that they would be excited for a new corner of the Marvel Universe. And I think this show, I keep saying we as if I made the show, I think it's really going to welcome people to this whole side of the world and a bunch of characters that I love. And I'm so excited! And they're definitely dropping some hints for the upcoming series throughout the course of the Daredevil show. You guys, it's just so good. I promise I'll stop babbling about it in a second. Oh, important note. There is some violence in this series that is a bit over the top. I've kind of come to accept that anything that we want to be edgy and adult is going to have that stuff. There were a couple moments that I think I would have just left as implied. But either it calms down in the second half or I just got used to it, one or the other. And on the whole, it doesn't really take that much away from me from what is overall a really, really good show. And the action is fantastic. Everyone's been saying that, but it's because it's true. But I don't even care. They could have left the action. Matt was there, and Foggy was there, and Karen was there, and it was Daredevil, and I'm so happy, and we have so much more goodness to look forward to, and that makes me so happy! Happy Daredevil Day! My congratulations to all of the many people who worked really hard on this show. I think you did a wonderful job, and I'm so happy with what you made. Now thank goodness he's finally in the suit. Let's keep going. That's it for me. What about you all? Let me know in the comments how you have enjoyed it if you're planning to check it out. Try to tag your spoilers if you can, since it's only been up for a couple of days at this point. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends if you feel like doing that for some reason, and most importantly, read yourself some Daredevil comics.